Welcome to Wheelock's Latin, Chapter 13. In this chapter, we'll learn about the reflexive pronoun. To review the personal pronoun, in a sample sentence, you praised me, you and me are personal pronouns. The reflexive pronoun is what we use when the pronoun refers back to the same person as the subject. That means that you can't have a reflexive pronoun as the subject, which also then means that there is no nominative form of the reflexive pronoun. In English, the reflexive pronoun has the suffix self, as in myself, yourself, himself, etc. In the sample sentence, I praised myself, I is a personal pronoun, and myself is a reflexive pronoun, referring back to the same person as expressed in the subject. In the sample sentence, Cicero praised him, him is a personal pronoun, but Cicero praised himself, himself is a reflexive pronoun. There are no new Latin forms for the first person reflexive pronoun and the second person reflexive pronoun. There are only new forms for the third person reflexive pronoun. So let's look at the Latin forms. In the first person, I promised you no new forms, so let's take the forms that we learned for the personal pronoun. Remember that there is no nominative in the reflexive, so I cross those off. Me in the genitive either means of me, if it's a personal pronoun, or of myself, or if it's a reflexive pronoun. So if the subject is somebody other than I, then in English you translate it as of me. If the subject is I, then in English you translate it of myself. I have a book of myself, as opposed to he has a book of me. Likewise in the dative, mihi either means to me, if the subject is somebody other than I, or to myself, if the subject is I. Same with accusative, ablative, and the plurals. In the second person, the forms are the same as the personal pronoun, so no nominative, then tui tibi te te, no nominative, vestri vobis vos vobis. There are new forms for the third person only. It's the same forms for masculine, feminine, and neuter, sui sibi se se, no nominative, and then lucky you, it's also the same forms in the plural, sui sibi se se. So that means only 4 new words to memorize for all genders, both plural and singular. Sui means of himself, of herself, or of itself, and that means that the himself, herself, and itself refers to the same person as the subject, whatever the he, she, or it of the subject is. Compare that to eius, which means of him, of her, or of it, when we're referring to a different he, she, it than the subject. So for a sample sentence, let's go to the accusative. Se means himself, herself, or itself. And if you want to say him, her, or it, not reflexive, then you use eum, eam, or id. So in the sample sentence, Cicero se laudavit, it means Cicero praised himself, reflexive. As opposed to Cicero eum laudavit, which means Cicero praised him. We don't know who him is. All we know is that it is somebody other than Cicero, and it's a man. So last thing in this chapter is the intensive pronoun or adjective. In English, unfortunately, the intensive pronoun also uses the suffix self. So in the sample sentence, Cicero himself praised me. Himself is an intensive adjective. It's an adjective that modifies the noun Cicero and makes it more intense. In the Latin, this would be Cicero ipse me laudavit, where ipse is the intensive adjective. It's the same form for the adjectives and the pronouns. So in the sample sentence, ipse me laudavit, now ipse is an intensive pronoun. You know it's a pronoun instead of an adjective only because there is no noun for it to modify. In English, we would translate this as he himself praised me. You'll notice that in English, we have to throw in a personal pronoun, he, and then we modify it with an intensive adjective, himself. So he, himself, pronoun and adjective, to translate the one Latin pronoun, ipse, which is an intensive pronoun. The forms for ipse, the intensive pronoun or adjective, are as follows. There's different forms for masculine, feminine, and neuter. It's mostly a 2-1-2 adjective, ipse, ipsa, ipsum. But like the special adjectives pronouns in chapter 9, it has a genitive in ius, so ipsius, 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 and a dative in I, ipsi, ipsi, ipsi. So review those forms in chapter 9. Other than that, the rest is what you would expect from a 2-1-2 adjective. So ipsum, ipsam, ipsum, ipso, ipsa, ipso, ipsi, ipsi, ipsa, etc. That's it for now. See you next time.